Welcome to Daily 5 for Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024. I recently rewatched the 1972 Andrei, Tarkovsky film Solaris. I'm also going to be rewatching Stalker, which I rewatch quite often, and longtime listeners know I never shut up about it. I am doing another set of movie reviews with Dr. Douglas Bielmeyer, and we're doing Solaris and Stalker, neither of which he's ever seen. And Solaris, I had not watched Solaris in... I don't know. It's been a while. I don't watch that as often as Stalker. And if you've listened again recently, you know that most of the movies I have covered in the last 3, 4, 5 years have been sort of the lesser films, the films that are not really known for their big philosophical questions, but instead are more focused on things like, I don't know, weird special effects or bizarre stories, B movies. And that stuff is fun, but it is nice to go back and this is really what I think the value, because I've had people say, I don't know how you watch these longer movies, these long, boring movies that, Solaris is almost 3 hours long, Stalker is the same. And I have had people who, that watch a lot of the movies that I like to review now, the B-movie stuff, that don't know how I get through them and don't really know why I watch those longer ones when I seem to have such a good time with the B-movies. And the thing is, and it has been tough for me to, because look, I don't want to tell anybody what to watch, and I'm certainly not somebody who looks down on someone because they don't watch these movies. You watch the stuff you want to watch. That's how it should work. Entertainment should be what you want it to be. It shouldn't matter whether it is considered good or bad, or whether everybody around you thinks it's good or bad, or whether, it gets a certain rating or it was made by a certain person. The reality is, if you watch something and you respond to it with joy and positivity and happiness or giddiness, even if you're laughing at it, then it still has value. So I try not to come off like you need to watch. This is the true meaning of cinema, and you need to watch it. But I do like to try to get people to give it a shot. Often it fails. I'll just admit it, often it fails. But I do try to get people to at least sample a little bit of that stuff. And often it's hard for me to convince people, not convince them, but give them a reason why. And I realized in talking with Doug about Solaris, what I think I should really tell people is that it actually makes me enjoy watching two very different types of movies. Because I really, at this point, for the most part, what I'm watching is either things that are considered trash cinema or great works like something like Solaris or Stalker, great examples of filmmaking. I don't watch much in the middle anymore. It's part of the reason why, I've tuned out of Marvel and that type of stuff. I watch them from here, time to time, but I don't really care. And I think some of that is because I really just have started to understand that my reaction to movies, and I don't know if everybody would be like this, but it's an interesting idea that might be more common than you might initially think. But to some degree, each of these different ends of the spectrum makes the other one better. To watch something like Solaris, which is virtually beginning to end, an invitation to try to figure out what the movie is asking you and what those questions mean to you, almost from the beginning. The movie plays around with the idea of reality and humanity and what matters and what should matter and all these different things that it throws at big, giant philosophical questions that it wrestles with. And then I'll turn around and watch something like The Dorm That Dripped Blood, and that movie then is very fun because I don't have to think about that. It's a slasher film. It's not trying to be big and over the top and pretentious and philosophical and heady and weighty. And those two ends, those two different contrasts, it's like peanut butter and chocolate, I guess. The two of them now, for me, have really formed a nice rhythm where I watch a bunch of movies that don't really require me to think about much outside of, observing things and pulling good quotes for the show. And then on the other end, I'll watch something like Solaris and soon Stalker within a few days of recording this, and really just sit there and enjoy the fact that these movies make you notice what they're doing, and they actually confront you with the emptiness of like pure visual spectacle. You just see the images, but there's not a lot of dialogue at times. There's not a lot of stuff being pointed out. You have to actually engage with the material and consider what you think is going on and what your interpretation of what you're being shown is. And I think that's great too. I think both ends of those things are really, really effective, and they complement each other. And I think that's why now at this point, that's the kind of movies I tend to gravitate towards, the ones that really that push me from one to the other, back and forth. So anyway, just random thoughts on a Wednesday for everybody. That's all I had to say. Later.